to see yourself.
Okay, we are ready to start if you guys are.
Okay, I call this meeting to order then at 7:01 p.m. I'm looking for a motion to approve the September 8th minutes.
I move.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and properly seconded. I think we would like to do, so this is a voice vote.
Yes.
I think we can do roll call along with it, perhaps?
If you would like.
Yeah, we can do it that way.
Okay.
Deb,
Aye.
Mayor Boley is not here yet. Dennis is not here yet. Carmen,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
So that is,
4.
yep, 4-0.
All right, great. Well, the next item on our agenda is the staff report. Jack, do you have a staff report for us?
Yes, I do. If you've been driving around Smithville of late, you'll note that we've got construction, commercial construction in particular, going on in a lot of places. Just to give you an update, I don't recall exactly where we were last time, but Porter's is now open at the marketplace. Price Chopper opens in the morning, and they will have a 7:30 ribbon cutting ceremony at the parking lot. We have received application, initial, not the full view version of it, for a new restaurant at the marketplace as well. They're waiting for the escrow to close on that. Once that, or contingencies to close, once that happens, they'll release the name. The 8,400 square foot strip mall is under construction now. They started footings today. All that is at the marketplace. Permit's been issued for the new Shamrock gas station and convenience store, which will involve a much bigger store behind the existing one. And then once that store's up, they'll tear down the existing one and put up the rest of the structures. They pulled that permit today. The Herzog Foundation building is going out to their bidding, I think, the end of this week, or the bids are due at the end of this week. So this is going to be rolling as well shortly. The second building at the KCI RV Center is under construction. White Iron Ridge is still under construction. So we've got a lot of things under construction all around town, including 35 single-family building permits so far this year. And to the extent that we have a massive shortage of lots, that's not too bad. If you drive through the new phase of Grayhawk subdivision in the back, they are about ready to record that plat. They've got a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross, and then they will be recording that. And as you drive through it, you'll see they have 8 lots already reserved. And my understanding is there will be 8 permits issued immediately upon once that gets recorded. So we should be at 43 shortly, before the end of the year, from what the developer's indicating to me. So things are moving on from that standpoint as well. The Eagle Ridge single family subdivision up by the high school is back under construction. If you drive by the commercial, you'll see a lot of work going on there. And then, so that's all the stuff that comes directly through my department. We also have the Main Street Trail project is under construction. If you drive out to Main Street and before you get out to the Lytton Way, which goes across the dam, you'll see they are constructing all through there. So that project is moving forward as well. We've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of balls in the air. So things are moving forward. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
I've got one about that restaurant in the marketplace. Is that going to be another, you want fries with that, or are we talking an actual Go in, sit down type restaurant?
Um,
No.
Technically, I've assured the developer that until they provide notice to me that the contingencies have closed, that I would not discuss any specifics as to whom it is. But they're close, I would guess.
The soul of discretion there.
Yeah. Oh, which reminds me, and thank you for the property, the vacant property across from the marketplace, which is north of the old Loman's building and south of the Hillside Plaza,
Yeah.
is under contract for development, from what I understand. So we've had, it is not sold definitively, but it is under contract. So that may be moving shortly as well. And the strip mall at the intersection of Commercial and 169, the Hershey strip mall,
Yeah.
its demolition has begun. They're
Any
apparently
idea what's going in there?
no idea. He has not revealed anything other than it is not CVS, according to him.
Has some Humphrey's restaurant opened yet, or have you heard when that one's scheduled?
2.5 more weeks, from what I understand, but they're getting close.
Somebody asked me today if they keep hearing rumors about a Dairy Queen going in. Is that still just a big rumor, or is that a slight possibility, or does anybody?
From what I've heard, the rumors as well. I know they were interested in coming to Smithville when I was in Las Vegas in 2017. And they've had contact with various officials. I think they're looking. They just haven't found something they're ready to pull the trigger on yet.
Okay.
But I know they're looking.
Jack, what about the dispensary?
It is under they're remodeling the inside. And that should be ready in another week or two, I would imagine, for inspections, but I don't know if they have any product to cause them to open yet.
Thank you.
I haven't spoken with them on that.
All righty. Any other comments or questions for Jack before we move on? Okay, seeing none. Well, the next item on our agenda is the discussion of park fees for new subdivisions, definitions, and past practices. Jack, would you like to get us kicked off on this one too?
Yes, and this should be just a few minutes. If you've had a chance, I sent you all an email this afternoon with a little cheat sheet on the 2 relevant code provisions. The first one is the subdivision code related to parkland and parkland dedication and the wording in it, and I highlighted it in yellow. Then I also put another provision later in the ordinance that kind of gives you an understanding of how we got to the interpretation. So we have, to clarify, the term residential in our subdivision code is an undefined term. So there's nothing specifically to look at it. So you use its plain and ordinary meaning. Ordinarily in Smithville, residential has been in the subdivision code has been limited to those districts with an R in front. So R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. That's the only limitation, or that's the only interpretation that was in effect. It was that way when I got here. So when you have an ag development that comes in as A1 or AR, somebody wants to bust up land into 5 lots and do an AR or an A1, there's no parkland dedication requirement because of the past interpretation. Past practice is easier to change than it is an ordinance, because we don't have to change an ordinance, at least in some parts. We don't have to change an ordinance. It would be changing the notice by providing notice to the general public that any application after this date will be treated as though residential in development doesn't mean the zoning, but if it's got a residential use in it, if it's got an apartment, even if it's in the B3 district where you can put senior apartments that have apartments and assisted living as well, any of those scenarios, if it's got a dwelling unit on it, they would be subject to the provisions of the parkland dedication. If they don't have land, they can do the fee in lieu of dedication. And an effort to bring everybody together from this standpoint. And I think the mayor's the one that brought the point up to me initially, and I think he makes an excellent point. The people that are in the villas at Smithville, or the people that are in AR districts at wherever they be located, the ranch or Wilkerson Creek or Whiskey Ridge, those are folks that are, they may live on 3, 5, 8 acre parcels, but they also use our parks. And those folks did not dedicate land under the dedication requirement, except for Whiskey Ridge, but Whiskey Ridge was required to dedicate it because the comprehensive plan had a trail specifically marked through their land. So we required them to dedicate a trail easement through there. So by making a slight definitional change, by residential meaning any place where a person lives versus the dwelling district, the zone district, it makes it a lot easier on how we, and fair on everyone on how to do that. And that would simply be me providing notice to the general public that effective whatever date, this will be the new interpretation. Because it, like I said, it doesn't require us to change any of the ordinance. It's just how we interpret it. And it's a fair interpretation either way. So that's, unless there's an objection to it, I'll put that notice out. And I see Melissa's got her hand up.
I don't have an objection, but I think that's a good move with what we're looking at in the comp plan to really roll that out with the expectations I think that the community shared with Parks and Rec.
Yeah, and we are working with our city attorney to clarify a better way to handle it other than just in new developments. There may be alternative methods for us to address the park impact of new residential uses. So we will be working with him. Anything he suggests will obviously end up back here in front of the Planning Commission. So seeing no objections to the concept, I will proceed with getting that paperwork ready to get the notice to the public.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sure. And that is all I have. One comment, one thanks, and nobody else, no objections. So we're good to go. We'll be ready for the next item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the next item on our agenda then is the big one, the comprehensive plan update. Jack, are you wanting to get us kicked off here as well?
Yeah, I'll do a quick introduction and move us through, as we said at the very beginning of the meeting, and actually while we're waiting to go live. This is the big part of the last year. You've got a draft. You were given it over the weekend, a chance to read through it, take a look at it. Between now and Friday, we really need you to, if you have edits, suggested edits, typos, or any of that kind of stuff, send them in a page and paragraph and kind of a description format to me in an email, and I will get it to the consultants. If you have any other editorial concerns with it, we're going to do that tonight. So Heather and Leslie, the consultants with Future IQ and John Stover and Associates, you met them at the previous meetings. They've made presentations before. They're here to kind of roll it out and go through it, and they may ask you questions. They're certainly ready to have you present questions to them as well. So with that, I will be silent for the rest of the evening. Good luck with that. But I'll turn it over to Leslie here.
Thank you. We are so excited to be able to share this drafts of the comprehensive plan with you all and start getting some input. We've been hard at work on this, as you know, for the better part of 6 months through our various task force meetings and portal discussions and conversations in small groups. We've had some really great feedback, a lot of insights into your community, and we think just the next 10 years in Smithville are going to be very exciting 10 years. Just to set the stage, obviously the Planning Commission, I'm sure you all are very well aware by now what a comp plan is and what that means, but just in case there's any other participants on the call or on the live stream that are not too familiar with a comp plan, because every community goes through this process every 10 or 20 years, so it's a new process for a lot of folks when these occur. A comp plan is really the visionary document for a city moving forward for the next 10 years. So this Smithville comp plan runs from 2020 to 2030, and it really articulates the community's vision for what they want to see in Smithville over the next 10 years and provides that outline and that vision in terms of steps and implementation strategies for the city to be able to reference back to in terms of work planning out what should be accomplished in 10 years, and also as a steering tool for delegating tasks and understanding roles and responsibilities between all the various commissioners and the committees and staff, city staff as well. So in the comp plan, and I don't know if by a show of hands, has anyone had a chance to flip through the document? Or is this all fresh, new to everybody tonight? Okay, so a few of you. Again, this is obviously a pretty hefty document. We're looking at about 100 pages. So definitely did not expect everyone to come in with every page being read. I wanted to just take a moment to just kind of go over the structure of the comprehensive plan and kind of give you a cheat sheet on what you're looking at, where some of the most relevant planning concepts are tucked into the document, and kind of what areas I think would be really beneficial to have the Planning Commission also focus on. So in the comprehensive plan, what you're going to see is 7 distinct chapters or sections in the report. The first section really just provides that background concepts of the comprehensive plan and really sets the stage. The second section in the comprehensive plan provides really the existing conditions of the city in terms of population, in terms of demographics and characteristics. We also include the projections for 2030 of what we expect to see in terms of growth and change from a employment and population consideration. The fourth chapter of the comprehensive plan the third chapter of the comprehensive plan picks up where the strategic visioning work from the previous report kind of ended. And so we're really breaking this comprehensive plan within the 5 pillars, right? Which is very familiar because our task forces were very much in alignment with the pillars. But we take the pillars and we start to go into more detail of some of the big ideas that came out of the visioning work, and then also relates this to planning implications and making this very relevant in terms of the comprehensive plan. The fourth chapter brings those pillars back together and sets that stage for this idea of the modern community oasis for 2030, the end result of that strategic plan. When we go into the 5th chapter, this is where you start getting into kind of more of the weeds in terms of the planning side of the comprehensive plan. In the 5th chapter, you'll see the existing conditions from a land use perspective in the city, as well as importantly, that future land use map, which we've come and talked to you folks, I think twice before, August and September. So that's where that information is included in the comp plan. Moving into the 6th chapter is what we call the roadmap section. So here's where we look at where we live, work, and play, which is where our character areas and the schematic ideas of these distinct areas throughout the city come into the comp plan. We also provide the ideas of how we move through the city, right? So our transportation planning elements, and then our resources, so our infrastructure, as well as some city policy and master planning efforts that are anticipated in the coming years. All of this ties into the 7th chapter of the comprehensive plan, or the 7th section, and here is our implementation matrix. And this often is really kind of the meat of most comprehensive plans, right? So you have our strategic action items oriented underneath a series of goals that came out through our visioning work. These action steps were derived from conversations that we had at the task force level, conversations that we all have had as a group in August and September, conversations with Jack and Cynthia, who have been fundamental in this process and provided such great insight, et cetera. And so within the implementation matrix, what we do is we identify, again, those goals, which are associated through each of the pillars, and provide a series of action steps to help achieve those goals over the next 10 years, as well as indicate time frame and priority to help inform some of the decision making on how these pieces can all come together in 10 years. And so that's really big picture overview of what that comprehensive plan document's looking like. Obviously, what we've provided you is a draft iteration. So we've been working with our designer this week. We're going to get this polished up and formatted for public viewing. So some of those, there's a few little funny formatting things from exporting that will all be tidied up. But I think we're at a great point. I'm really eager to start having some conversations to see if there's any reactions at this point. And I just want to make sure, Heather, did I miss anything important when we went over that top level 30,000 foot view of the comp plan document?
I think you did a great job, Leslie.
Okay.
Really good.
There's a lot in there. So in terms of conversation today, I would like to be able to have an opportunity for any of the planning commissioners to provide some verbal comments or reactions to the comp plan document. Is it, are there surprises in the document from what you've seen? Are you still in the process of starting to get into the document and haven't quite gotten into some of the details yet, or any reactions?
And this is very much a draft, so we would really appreciate any input you have.
I'll start. I thought it was very well put together, and I attended a lot of the task force virtuals in July and August, so could really relate to how it was presented here. So I think you guys did an excellent job of really putting all of that information together in a very easily to read and understand document, which I really appreciate. I will reference on page 68 of the document. I have a question on the proposed, it says major trail networks. And where we have that potential path connection there at the top of the city of Smithville, where we have that potential path connection. I don't know if you're on page 68 yet or not. I'm wondering why we're not showing, and maybe this is more a question for Jack, the fact we've got that little bit of a trail between, up here at Diamond Crest, and hopefully being able to connect that down to Wildflower there at the school. I'm wondering why that's not reflected on this map.
Sorry. In part because we do not have the easements yet for a lot of it, but that is where it will ultimately go. If you'd like to see that tweaked a bit, I can discuss that with Leslie and get that tweaked pretty easy.
Yeah,
I think since we're saying proposed, I think it would make sense to show it in here because that
Sure.
in the next 10 years.
Then I can certainly get that to Leslie and show her where that's at.
And that's really the only comment I have on everything that I have read through here. Was the only thing that I really questioned was not there. The rest of what I have are maybe typos or something like that. And Jack's already informed us to share that with him, and he will get that all to you in one document. So that's
That sounds perfect.
Following up on Melissa's comment, showing proposed trail area, are there any other areas like that that should show up on the map as proposed, like a dashed line or something?
Well, this is the major trails. I know we'll have some connectors and things like that too that will come out of probably the parks plan and the transportation plan. So
Oh, okay.
'Cause I know, like Jack said, there's some easement through Whiskey Ridge. There's going to be some stuff going in along 188th with the development for Herzog.
Yeah,
And
we've
then-
got we've got a lot of it to pick up. And I think the critical element is what the mayor just said. And that is, we've got the Parks Master Plan and Trail Plan coming to a city near you soon. And that will be, I think, where we really, really hit those items.
Okay, so this what we're looking at right now is a broad overview, and the little mini comprehensive plans for different areas are going to be where we drill down.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's a great point. I've made a note too on my version for tonight, that could be a great opportunity to provide a call out or some explanation with this context to tie it into this, how this relates to future planning efforts, and that there are additional conversations throughout the city to always encourage a more expansive trail network.
And I've sent that to Leslie already, so we're good to go.
Perfect. Any other reactions, big picture concepts from the comp plan?
Not necessarily big picture concept takeaway, but I wholeheartedly agree. The document looks great. You all have done an amazing job on it. The one thing I was quickly flipping through on my notes that, and maybe I just missed this, it's at close to the very end, where it ranks kind of like action items by priority and by time. Are those sorted in a certain way, or is it just kind of like how they were mentioned in the document? I was just trying to pick up if there's a pattern that with that.
I was confused about
Sure, that's a great question. Our major framework for organizing the implementation matrix was primarily under the strategic pillars. In doing so, we thought that this was a really unique opportunity to ensure that those strategic pillars, which we know are very important to the community, remain important over the next 10 years, and have the city be able to tangibly say, here's what we're doing to try to achieve that vision. So primarily, again, it's that idea of organization under the pillars. Underneath that, we do have it organized by goals that you'll see in chapter 3, how we end each strategic pillar. We end on a little goal diagram. I think we just matched the order with that. If there's specific ordering comments or certain areas that you think should be up front or listed first, but we're definitely happy to take another look at the ordering of the goals. Something that is not in your version, but what we're working on for this final version is also providing in the appendix. We're going to provide a secondary list of these same action steps, but organized by character area. So that if, for instance, a developer came into the community and was going to do a development in the downtown area, they could easily flip to that appendix section and be able to identify, here are all the different things that are important to the city. What are the things that are relevant for my development, or areas that we can provide overlap with our development and the goals of the comprehensive plan too. So that will be coming in another way to organize the plan too.
Along that same line, I know you put those in order, probably how those questions were asked out on the portal, and that's how they're there. I'm wondering, and I'm asking the board here, or the committee, would it make more sense to have those in the priority order when somebody looked at it?
That's kind of where I was going with my question too. However, I totally understand, Leslie, your all's approach, and I love that idea too of that supplemental information you have. I also was, I'm kind of in agreement that priority I think would be helpful, but curious on others' thoughts too.
I agree. Order of priority would be good. And to dissect it even further, take it each group per pillar or something. If that's, take a pillar, put everything that applies to the pillar there, and have it in priority underneath the pillar. if that makes sense.
I think that's what I was looking at, like here on page 89, the small town feel, putting the small town feel in priority order and doing that for each pillar.
Exactly.
Can we
My,
can we put that in a supplemental at the end where it's just a punch list?
An addenda?
Yeah, so we have it as presented both ways of the way the questions were asked and the things were outlined, but then provided as kind of a punch list for us of these are the
Right,
priorities.
a quick
Okay.
reference, reference sheet then.
That would be good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. I think that could help that usability.
That way you're not
Section
tearing up
down.
your awesome formatting and you can still get us a
It is awesome.
And it
us A types that need a punch list,
Yeah, no, I respect that. It does get a little tricky too with prioritizing the goals, because a lot of these are, all important too. So that's a little bit of a tough spot, but I really like that supplemental second idea. Do you think it would be more helpful if in that secondary list in the appendix where it's sorted by priority, is it important to still sort that by pillar? And so each pillar you have the highest priority, or is it more helpful if the pillar elements removed and we just list everything that's a high priority in one section, everything that's moderate priority and then low?
If you want to emphasize the pillars and their importance, I think the more emphasis you put on the pillars, the better. Because in 5 or 10 years, some of us may not even be here, and those coming behind us can look like, what's with the pillars? What was that all about?
Well,
So,
in 10 years, we get to do this all over again. So
Could you still
8 years.
combine all of the pillars, but under each section, like high priorities, title it like small town feel? These are the high priorities.
yeah.
Still separate them by pillars, but group all of the high priority together.
Yeah, but you could throw in another way of doing it too is by timeline, the short,
That's-
medium time, and
That's exactly what I was, if you had it sorted by pillar with each pillar sorted by priority and sorted by timeline.
right.
Ooh,
So you'd have two. So you could, okay, this is high priority, but this is medium priority, but we want it done in the first 3 years.
yeah,
So-
yeah, because that helps us with our budgeting and our CIP and all that other stuff, right? So, and if we need to go out for bonds or we need to go out for, ballot issues or whatnot. So,
I like that idea a lot, Jack. I really do. That
It's
makes it
sortable.
more comprehensive and more coherent.
Yeah.
Well, and it allows you as a reader to, I like it organized this way. Here's my organization.
Yeah.
I like it in the way it is up front. I'll stay there. I don't need to see the other stuff. And that would ultimately give you 3 options of how to read it. The existing framework in chapter 7 plus 2 options in the back.
Well, it would work really well for a developer too, to have a more comprehensive idea. Say they're going to take a section to look at of the map and say, I want to think about this section of the map. How do the pillars apply to that particular section of the map, and the timeline and the priorities? So yeah, that would be something really great for a future developer to look at and give him an idea, maybe cause a whole lot less questions.
Or her.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I have a
And
question.
just to, oh yeah.
Yeah, Carmen, go ahead.
Thank you. Not having read the document to that point, the term small town feel, can I assume that that's been defined in the document? I'm just wondering about the subjectivity and opinion as to what a small town is. Can I assume that in the document that is defined and clarified what a small town feel is? My concern is its effect on future developers coming in. I'm wondering, can you have development at that kind of scale in the next 10 years and still maintain a small town period, let alone small town feel? Does my question make any sense whatsoever to you?
If I could, Leslie, Carmen, I think your question was asked a bunch during the task force meetings, a bunch, because
Okay. But I just asked it now.
No,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I
Yeah.
think it's important to ask the question so that we can understand where your concerns are. But I don't know that it's got a specific, here's what it means, because it means a lot to different people. It means a lot of different things to different people.
Correct.
So what we've done in the small town feel portion is place the priorities, the action items, all that stuff that's in there. So it doesn't define it, but it says this is what the citizens of Smithville have said are their priorities and the timing of their priorities to maintain that feeling. Because to be quite frank, small town feel is like economic development. Everybody has a different opinion as to what it means.
Yes.
But they all agreed these were the highest priority ways to make our town feel like a small town.
Jack, didn't we in one of the sessions even ask for people to define what small town feel was? I don't know
Right.
if that could be compiled together.
Well, the hardest
Or
part
not.
the hardest part in my estimation is the word feel.
Mhm.
Because, you know, we're looking at this screen here and there are, what, 15 people on this screen. And my guess is we all have a slightly different feeling as what a small town is based upon whether you came from one or you now live in one, you know, that kind of thing. Small town feel has a slightly different meaning to everyone. So it's going to be hard to quantify and to actually define it. But I think if we think as a community, these are the action items that will help us maintain that small town
Yeah.
feel, that gets us where we need to be.
Thank you, Jack.
Sure, sure.
And to expand on that a little bit more too, in the third section of the comp plan, when we really introduce these pillars, we provide, I believe it's 4 pages on each pillar. So that small town feel pillar has a dedicated area at the beginning of the comp plan that does bring in some of those attributes of what we've heard, what small town feel means. I did make another note too to take another look back through there to see if that's still clear, because as Jack said, that's not only a small town feel, a different definition for each of us. I think in the next 10 years, over the 10 years, it's going to mean something different ongoing as well too. So that's a great point and a really good question.
And we did talk a little bit about in 3.3.2 about the community aspirations that came out of the visioning portion of it. And then we do go in the next couple sections through the impacting trends and then the goals that people stated in the task forces about what they hoped for with this small town feel. So that section 3.0 is really important to read. Yeah, about that. I think you'll see a lot of what people hope for and aspire to with that feel.
Yeah, and the good thing is, Carmen, what Heather just described applies to each of them. Chapter 3 will really give you a better understanding of the consultants and staff's interpretation based upon all the data that the citizens provided. This is kind of where it all boiled out. And ultimately, it's the result of a bunch of surveys and a bunch of comments. The portal has been amazing for that purpose. People being able to get into an actual dialogue with each other.
And I think one thing to keep in mind also is part of the reason that we selected Future IQ for coordinating and facilitating this process was their work on our strategic plan. Those 5 pillars were outlined and honed through the strategic planning process. So that small town feel has kind of been discussed and vetted over the last 18 months. And Carmen, I think it would probably be helpful also, it's really well defined in the strategic planning document as well. So that's some additional background.
Consider it done. Thank you.
Okay.
Was there anything, for those of you that have flipped through the comp plan, was there anything missing
Right.
that you expected to see and didn't see, or were curious why it wasn't included? Again, I feel like we've brought everybody along through this process, and David, who's been leading the charge at Future IQ, articulates it really well of really what's written in this document, the community wrote in so many ways, from the task force and the portals. It's really your document, so we want to make sure that we're inclusive of all of the perspectives and the needs in the comp plan too for the next decade. And if there's no immediate reaction to that idea too, is there something missing? I think that could be a really good point to let kind of sit in your mind as you read it in more detail too, and that could be a good opportunity for some feedback.
What's our deadline on the feedback again?
Great question. The schedule that we've worked out so far, we are anticipating mid next week or early next week publishing the draft on the portal so that the public has an opportunity to see this comp plan. If there are areas of concern or some key points that it would be important to discuss before that gets published, it would be helpful to have all of the feedback by the end of this week. Definitely can still provide feedback once it's up for public comment. We'll just be finalizing the document, cleaning up the QA/QC of the document and doing a little bit more of the formatting. So we'll be able to supplement that with any other changes over the coming, I believe it was 2 weeks, Heather, is that what we landed on?
Yeah, the 27th. If we could have input by the 27th, that would be great. Yes.
Okay. Oh,
However, if you'd like your input put into the design version that we're going to have for next week, it would be great to have it by this Friday, because our designer needs it in order to make that public early next week.
okay, I'll read it some more then. One of the things that I did like a lot was the inclusion of public comment off to the side. There was one, however, that had the person's name on there. And unless you've got their permission to publish their name, it probably would be a good idea to remove it.
They publish their name directly to the portal that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was part of the portal discussion process. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are, well, first, let me clarify something, Deb. Every one of those comments came from a citizen, of somebody providing it. What we don't have are the names of those folks that did. Yeah, we don't have those that did it in a survey or part of the task force process. If we didn't have it specifically attributed to them, that's why it's just a comment. But if they put it on the portal with they signed their name off on it, then that's why we're using it.
Okay, so there's no expectation of privacy then.
No.
Okay.
Some helpful tips too in terms of reviewing this document. Obviously, again, this is a lengthy document. We hope that it reads pretty quickly. We've tried to make this engaging and interesting and very visual, but to be cognizant of your all's time. I think that the emphasis on chapters, 5, 6, and 7, or 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, 5, you've seen the future land use map. We've talked about that, but 6, 7, and kind of the bridge from the pillars into the plan, I think are really the key elements for feedback too. So if at the very least you can skim the document, get an understanding of the framework, and then review those sections in a little bit more detail. I think that'd be a good bang for your buck. In terms of the implementation matrix in that chapter 7, we had issued those surveys to the Planning Commission, Board of Aldermen, our task force members, those that have participated in the discussion boards or were signed up on the listservs for the task force. We distributed surveys to be able to capture that priority element from those implementation action steps that we had drafted in those surveys. And I just wanted to thank everybody who took the time to provide that feedback. We got tremendous results and very, very high levels of engagement for something so in the weeds. So I just wanted to thank you for that. The results from that survey is really the informing decision on the priority matrix too, in terms of, is it something a low priority, a high priority, moderate priority? That was really what we used as a lot of the determining factors for that implementation.
I have to say that I really feel like y'all did a fantastic job putting that together. And I am so pleased with the collaboration between you all, the city people, government staff, boards and everything. It's, for me, looking back at what Smithville used to be and what it's becoming, and what I see is possibility and potential for the future now, it is gratifying, very gratifying. And I think you all did a wonderful job of helping form it and make it a statement of reality to come.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great time working with you all, and Jack and Cynthia have just been fundamental in this process, and we've had probably hundreds of hours of conversations at this point. So I think, you know, I'm really encouraged by the participation that we've gotten in this process, especially during COVID and these kind of crazy times and flipping the process on its head. I think it really came out. We're excited in the final version of the document. We're going to be including some like screen grabs of some Zoom calls and things like that. So it's really document this funny planning time into the next decade.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really encouraging and just a joy to work with everybody. So thank you very much.
In terms of next steps and moving forward, again, that 2-week window of providing feedback. If you have comments specifically before it gets released to the public, let us know by the end of this week. We anticipate coming in November's meeting with the final comp plan to get passed through Planning Commission and adopted. That's kind of our working charge, and so the time for feedback is now. And we're really excited to kind of tie this up and wrap all these findings all together. I'm, of course, available if anybody, and you know, Heather and the team, we're all available if anybody wanted to do any other one-on-one calls or conversations offline through this process to make sure your public or your input has been conveyed. Also, that can, again, just be emailed to Jack if that's the easiest for you all for providing feedback. We're very flexible over the next few weeks to make sure that we can get this all wrapped up for you all.
Awesome. All righty. I'll go ahead and take the reins back. That is the last item we have on our agenda. I'll take a quick pause before we move to the adjourn item. Any lasting comments or questions?
Yeah, I think I out of courtesy, I owe the committee not an apology so much, but an explanation as to my absence I've been to the mountaintop and seen the burning bush. I had major surgery and then a very bad reaction to the flu shot. So it's not a reflection of disinterest, not at all. It was just a matter of me being incapacitated for a bit. So that's what I'd like to say. That's it.
You're here now.
Better?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have 2 weeks. You can try to catch up.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
glad to see you back.
and along that same line, Connor, I think if you run 3 meetings, you become chair, and Rand has to arm wrestle you to get it back.
That sounds fun. Maybe we can air it.
Yeah.
Rand
Through
might give
Zoom.
it to you. Rand might be very happy to give it to you.
Awesome. Well, Carmen, we are happy to have you back.
Thank you.
So with that, I will say I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Well, the motion's been made and properly seconded. This one's a voice vote, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
great
all.
night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.